see government officials and religious people who actually are doing something positive in the concrete and really making a difference. Practice something I call cosmic Judaism, which is Judaism in science and social action. We believe that revelation is ongoing, and what happened thousands of years ago is our first step, not our last. I would love to have dialogue with you and discussion with you, because I think you're the hope for the future.
From a city background, that one of the things that we found in our city is that there's a disconnect between when the city tries to roll out an initiative and it actually getting to the people. And you, as if you're representing a faith community here, you actually become a bridge. And I just found out that there's another awesome church in our city partnering with the city's level. We thought we were the only church. Until today, until I came to this meeting, thank you, Jill, we thought we were the only church in our city that was actually caring about these environmental issues.
And I'm here with Green the Church. And what Green the Church is, we are a sustainable initiative designed to tap into the power and purpose of the African American church community. What we're doing is trying to get as the African American churches involved in green, involved in climate justice, involved in climate change, be a part of the decision-making process. We think, and many times in the African American churches, we think that our vote doesn't count. We think that our thoughts don't count, but we do matter. We matter, and we are getting people to understand that your voice, your thought matters. We have a job to do, not just to save people, but to save the planet.
We had a biennial resolution adopted by the entire Union of Reformed Judaism. All 6,000 members voted for it unanimously, and it commits congregations across the country to take certain actions to promote climate change mitigation. This is our King Tide event, which we hold every year. You can see most of our students are involved. We partner with other schools in the community, both lower schools, middle schools, high schools, and universities. We measure the sea level rise and the salinity of the water, and we update it to Broward County's database. So that's been a great community awareness project.
We can't be there all right then and there. What it's going to take a whole community effort. FEMA has understood that. They have come out and said, we have got to get the whole community involved. And one of them, a standalone that everyone has never thought about, the faith-based organizations. They are a force multiplier that had not ever been considered.
Represent about 150 churches in Broward and Palm Beach that have linked arms for the last 3 years to do a number of different things to see faith, hope, and love spread throughout South Florida. After a disaster of any kind, we can rally a community like that. Churches and cities and volunteers, we all come together, but it's always painful, like, why do we have to wait for a disaster to see that type of resiliency, to see that type of response? Like, if we're only more prepared or could think this through a little more, how more effective could we be, but what other problems could we address as a collective?
And Eddie, I've heard say this before, but it's when we lay down our egos, our logos, and some of our pesos that we are the most effective. I think that's what this is supposed to be, is we're finding ways that, amongst different faith communities, we're finding ways to partner with things like this. And so we're excited to see what it would look like to partner with you guys in each of your roles to leverage all of our resources and influence and help communities at an even greater capacity.
The challenge has been, how do we match up those resources with the people that need them? Our goal is to get the right people at the right place at the right time. And now with the efforts you're all making here, we think that can happen.
When a community can come together around the place that we call home, anything is possible.
Last year, the UN began recognizing the year of water, the decade for water. So living in Florida, I know a lot about water, the lack of potable water, too much water with extreme events, saltwater intrusion. I've also done research down in Miami on sunny day flooding or king tides. And this year at our annual gathering, I'll be talking about climate gentrification. how as we are being impacted by climate degradation in Florida, we're displacing low-income and minority communities.
So my grandpa used to have this bent knife that he would use for wood carving, and it was weird, you know how knives are straight? This one was like a U. So that bent knife is akin to the process of decolonizing science. So practically, these means that the decisions are based on upholding the circle of life. A holistic spiritual philosophy guides decisions. It's a community-wide process. We reflect, it's intentional. And these revised assumptions, the methodologies and the techniques of the scientific process. We're bending these analytical tools, the conceptual tools, to sustain multiple species equitably. We are articulating our priorities and maintaining our practices. So an indigenous decolonized science yields policies that are protective and restorative of the greater Everglades. So what I'm saying is, let's continue to fund indigenous science. And these depend on the storytelling, the science, and the sovereignty.
Together with World Council of Churches, Religions for Peace, indigenous organizations, and scientists, launching as of last year the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative for the protection of rainforests and the rights of indigenous peoples in Peru, Colombia, and Brazil, and it's also in development in Indonesia and in Congo. Because among those 5 countries in the tropical area or equatorial area of the globe, they have 70% of the world's rainforest. Scientists have told us that without tropical rainforests, we will not be able to revert climate change. So the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative recognizes that there needs to be change also in the culture within the churches in Latin America. Rabbi Berry spoke a little bit about this, the need of reforming our own faiths and traditions, the history of colonization and conversion of indigenous peoples by churches that disregarded the value of nature for our own spiritual life and connection with God has contributed to the destruction of the environment all around the world. So today, we recognize now, with a concern for climate change and now understanding how the world works and climate works, we also realize that wherever there's still rainforests today, it is because indigenous peoples are there. So we cannot protect rainforests to revert climate change without also protecting the rights of indigenous peoples.
So the city of Miramar started a community garden about 10 years ago. We chose a location that was monoculture, just grass, in an area that it's a food desert located next to a Title I school. Fast forward 10 years, we have huge biodiversity. We're growing. It's member run, so it's run by Sweat Equity, and we've been able to do a lot of events. In our area, there are some children that have never seen a tomato in their lives. They have never. You ask them, tell me what a tomato is, and they will tell you ketchup. So we've been able to do events with them, and we invite them. We've done Taste of the Garden events, and they can see, they can taste, they can touch. They go to their houses and they say, hey mom, can you please give me some arugula? And then they're like, what? What's arugula?
The interesting thing when we talk about community-supported agriculture is when I first stepped into the fruitful field where it's a site in the Tedder community, which is a food desert in Pompano Beach. It's a small space that the Methodist Church had, and it was very rocky, beat-up soil. So what we do there is permaculture, where we build the soil up to grow produce. And when I started there running the youth program, they were doing a small CSA share, and the idea behind that was people would pay for their share between $25 a week to $40 a week, and half of the produce in weight we would donate to families in need. When we brought in the youth organization, or Grove City Youth, this is first-time job skills that these kids are attaining on a community garden. It's incredibly empowering to see these kids receive a paycheck, and then they're also giving back to their community. This is our 4th year. Now we're at a second site where we are actually training people on a much smaller scale. It's on 1 acre, but we are harvesting anywhere between 8,500 pounds of produce to 9,000 pounds this season is what we're estimating. It is about getting your hands in the soil. and getting back to grassroots as it is. And these kids being able to see that they're a part of something in their community. A lot of them are coming, like I said before, from food deserts, so there isn't fresh, healthy, organic things accessible to them.
Our committee has created a one-page food rescue plan that is a step-by-step instruction on how to conduct a food rescue. Events, bar mitzvahs, weddings, christenings, all kinds of gatherings where catered food or food prepared by somebody else is part of it. So what we see in the industry more and more is mindful consumption, mindful planning. Really think through your menu planning. Figure out if you're serving a large crowd, whether it's through a caterer or perhaps it's a community event. My work on the Tikkun Olam Committee with Temple Solel has allowed me to influence our committee a little bit this year in an annual mitzvah day that we do every year, which is do good, give back to the community, similar to what we saw the Calvary Church, I think, orchestrated. And this year, I was very pleased to see that the committee selected the Jubilee Soup Kitchen in Hollywood as the recipient charity, and we spent a day with about 75 plus volunteers actually rehabbing the facility and putting a spotlight on hunger in our local community.